he's ready, and I'm going to start the assembly. Oh, I've forgotten to do it again. Good afternoon, everyone. That's everybody here at Meadowside this week, and everybody out there who can't be at Meadowside this week, but of course we are thinking about you. We're missing you. And after I sent a message home on Friday to all your parents, our government did an education briefing on Friday evening, and they were talking about making sure that all children were back in some way in September. So we're going to start planning for whatever the next steps are. Anyway, it's lovely to see you all this afternoon, either live or via recording. I'm just going to take my glasses off for a minute. That's even better. And I'm going to share with you, as last week, a couple of little excerpts from the Book of Hopes. This week I've focused on the great outdoors. There are quite a lot of things in the Book of Hopes about nature, about animals. I think there's a specific section on cats and dogs, definitely. They've got their own chapters, and why not? And I was thinking about the weather last week and how it was awful for quite a few days, but all that rain that we had is going to make everything grow and look even more stunning this week. And this week we're going to have really hot weather. And so whether you are at Meadowside or whether you are at home, there's plenty more opportunities to go out to appreciate things in your garden and beyond. And so I chose a short story, which I'm going to read in a minute, which is just about finding the unusual in the most usual things. So what I mean by that is that we walk past things and we look at things in our gardens and in our surroundings on an everyday basis. Sometimes we don't really stop and give them the attention that we could. We don't really stop and look at them up close. So, for example, you might go out into your garden later on today and you might have, is something growing out the front or out the back that you could have a really close look at up close. Either get yourself really close to it, or if you've got anything like a magnifying glass at home, even better, you can have a really, really close up look at the detail of something that's growing. Or it might be something that you walk past on a walk. If you're going out somewhere, you might walk past the same route every day or every week. You might be going out and doing weekly exercises or cycling, that kind of thing, but you don't always have time to stop. And they call it being mindful, actually, and it's also one of those 5 ways to well-being. It's about stopping and being in the moment and just appreciating the beauty of something that's all around you. One of there is a story in the Book of Hopes. I can't remember what it's called now. It's not the one that I was going to read to you today, but there's one in there and it describes an activity. The author's describing doing it themselves. And when I started reading it, I thought, oh, maybe it's something that younger children might like to do. But actually, by the end of reading I guess it's less of a story and more of a kind of little biographical chapter. I was thinking, well, I suppose anybody from any age could do this. It was talking about either finding yourself or creating yourself a tiny figure, even smaller than me, okay, something tiny. So it might be like a little a Lego figure, or it might be, you might actually want to make something from scratch of your own, like if you're really handy, or if you like making little models, which I know some of you do. And then it was about taking that model out into your garden and out into the environment and imagining what the world would look like for them. So the sort of the size and the enormity of things. It's a bit like if I saw the world from Mr. Port's point of view and he had to see it from mine, being as tiny as I am, that the world would look very, very different. And so in the Book of Hopes, there's an author that talks about actually making yourself a little character. And then they go on to talk about how not only taking it for a walk outside in your garden, but also making tiny little things for it, like a tiny little picnic blanket that you could put down on the floor so that if you were having a snack or something to eat outside, that it could join you. And it even went as far as to say you could make it like a tiny little pizza out of a tiny little bit of dough, and then putting some, anyway, if you've got a lot of time on your hands and you'd like to do that and share your photos or results with us, then do. But it got me thinking about all those sorts of things out there that we don't really spend a lot of time really just stopping and studying in detail. Now, this story from the Book of Hopes is about something that grows outside, but it's actually, it's about satsumas. And if you don't know what a satsuma is, it's a delicious fruit. It's a little bit like a very small orange, so they look like mini oranges, and sometimes they're a bit easier to peel than an orange. Some of you might have had them as a snack in Key Stage 1 when you have snacks that are free, and very nice, tasty and healthy. And this story is called That Peeling Feeling. I'm going to put my glasses on just to read it because I printed it a little bit too small. My granddad told me about an artist called Joseph Beuys. I think you pronounce it that way. Joseph Beuys said every activity, even peeling a potato, can be a work of art. This was in the 1960s, before the internet and oven chips. So they had a lot more time for things like peeling potatoes. But even so, I think I know what he means. I like peeling things too. I like peeling candle wax from the kitchen table. I like peeling PVA glue from my fingers. I'm sure we've all had that sensation where you've been making something and then, yeah, you sort of pick the glue off afterwards. And I like peeling potatoes when I'm helping my mum. And satsumas. I love peeling satsumas. Most days, there is a point in the middle of the afternoon when my mum is off checking on my grandparents. My brother is off in the other direction, shouting over the garden fence, and I'm by myself. I like to go to the kitchen table and sit there in between things. I'm not starving, but I am a bit peckish. I'm not tired, but I'm quiet. I'm not bored, but I'm bored enough to eat fruit on purpose. Sunlight pushes through the open window, making the dust dance. I take a satsuma from the fruit bowl and hold it up. Birds sing. I look at the bumps and bulges and the pits and craters on the skin. It looks like an orange planet. I start by biting. I sink my teeth into the skin just to get it going. I get a sneak peek of the taste to come, like when you watch a trailer before you go to a movie. That first opening is a secret door to another world, like that cupboard that goes to Narnia. I work a fingertip into the opening, and to keep the peel in one piece, you have to kind of wiggle your hand as you pull. Micro moves. Up, down, back and forth. It's as neat and as natural as a turtle moving its flippers. A turtle on Blue Planet gliding through the shallows. The camera below, the sun shimmering above like a radioactive satsuma. Sometimes I do this while I'm FaceTiming friends or watching the news or whatever, and I don't even think about it. But sometimes when there's nothing else, I watch my own hands at work and see the orange skin fly free. And it is kind of cool to notice the fruit shedding its skin, like mum shrugging off her big blue coat after a long shift at work. The peel twists and turns over and over like a Blue Planet turtle showing its pale underbelly. I pluck the satsuma segments like petals, one by one. Before I eat them, I watch them one by one. Exposed, the sunlight makes their insides glow and they are full of light and zest and pulp and pips. I eat them one by one. It's just a satsuma. It's just a satsuma and I'm just a kid. Just a kid eating a satsuma in the middle of everything. So no matter how busy you are, there's always time to just stop for a moment and look at something or do something that you do regularly or every day and think about it in a lot more detail. Interesting. I tripped over my words once or twice there, and it made me think about the next bit of the assembly. I wanted to show you, like I did last week, a couple of posters that are up around school. And these two were about social distancing, first of all. Do you remember last week that I talked about how far 2 meters actually is, and how you could measure it by I don't know, 7.64 pigeons, or 1 whole Mr. Port and 1/10, for example. Those were just 2 of the things we mentioned. These 2 posters that are up around school are one from the Gruffalo and one from Room on the Broom. But they mention social distancing and are a really good way to think about what we should be doing. I'm going to hold up the Gruffalo one first of all, which you should be able to see there, the mouse, the Gruffalo. And there. Oh, I think most of no, there's a bird on top of the tree. It says, "All right," said the Gruffalo, bursting with laughter. "You go ahead and I'll follow 2 meters after." So just demonstrating the 2 meter rule there in the middle of their adventure, the Gruffalo and the mouse. And then this one here, she's got an extra long broom there. The witch, can you see? Yeah, I think you can see all of that. Room on a very, very long broom. And underneath it says, "You'd better be safe. You'd better be smart. Stay on the broom, but stay well apart." It's really hard to keep 2 meters distance. It's much further than you think. But in order to keep safe, that is the recommended distance at the moment that people need to be, whether they're out and about, whether they're at the shops, whether they're at school, whether they are in a queue waiting for something. That's the recommended distance that you should be apart from one another. And another thing that you should be doing on a regular basis, very, very often, is washing your hands. I remember before we went into lockdown, we practiced singing Happy Birthday twice to try and get the idea of how much time you should spend washing your hands. And in our classrooms at Meadowside at the moment, we've also got hand sanitizer in every room. So I expect if you're at home or if you've been to any shops, you will also have seen that people use a lot of hand sanitizer. And I was listening to some of the children from year 5 trying to say, sanitize your hands with hand sanitizer, and it sounded almost like a tongue twister. It was like, sanitize your hands using hand sanitizer. If you try and say it several times without tripping up, you are a better person than I. But good luck. Sanitize your hands using hand sanitizer. The message should go in, but it's not easy to say all in one go. Finally, although this is a black and white picture that I printed from the Book of Hope, so I'm just going to hold it up. And if you can't see the writing on it, just going back to the nature theme, I will tell you what it says. I think it was black and white actually in the book as well, but it just says, to plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow. An interesting thought. So planting a garden and waiting for something to grow gives you hope. And sometimes things don't grow as fast as you want them to, or sometimes you might plant 5 seeds and only 3 of them grow. But actually watching things grow and develop every day gives you hope, gives you a belief in tomorrow. And often when we're at school, it's what we like best about our jobs as well, working with you as children, is actually sharing the learning with you and watching you grow and develop and become more and more clever and more interested and curious in your learning. And we're looking forward to doing that with all of you again very, very soon. So plenty of things to think about. Don't forget to take your little models outside for a little socially distanced walk around to experience the world in different ways, or eat a satsuma when you get home, plant something in your garden, or just appreciate the things and the people around you in a slightly different way. That's it for Assembly this week. Great to see you all. Great to hear from you all, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you, everybody.